All right, good night, everyone. We had a major technical issue there, but listen, we are not going to let that stop us. We are going to jump off this thing. And when we go into the presentation tonight, you will see exactly why the enemy is trying to keep this information away from you. But we're going to move this thing same way still, and we're going to push it out. Now, what I'll do, I'll drop in the chat a backup Zoom link, not Zoom link, sorry, a backup YouTube link. So in case you guys would have sent it out to other persons, they'll be able to join us here. So let me just drop that right now in the link, and we're not going to stop. This has to be done tonight. And these things happen. The Bible says we're still not against flesh and blood, but we're going to drop it. So there we go. There is the link. Let me just drop it again for persons here so that they can all get access to it. Lovely. So we are going to, let me record it just in case persons jump on late so that they can get started and everybody can be in the same page. Right. So yes. So here we go. And let me just jump on here. Make sure that you guys are seeing me okay. Everybody see me okay? If you see me okay, just give me a one in the chat. I've dropped both links so persons can now have the information here. And just give me a one in the chat if you guys are seeing me okay, so that we can jump right back into it. Perfect. One. Lovely, lovely. So you can share the Zoom link if you had that one already, or you can share the YouTube link that I just dropped there. Whichever one works for you, we are going to move right into this thing. As I say, we expect these things to happen. As long as you're in this battle, these things will happen, but we are going to push forward. All right. So let me just drop a few more links here. Because persons are still trying to get on. We're trying to send out the link as well via the email. We call a person send up via the email. So we're making sure that we send that out for them so that they can all get that as well. Right? Yeah, all the links are dropped in the family chat, so you can go ahead and look at it there. All right. Lovely. Perfect. So let us go ahead and start now and just make sure that everybody is all ready to go. Perfect. Lovely. All right, so good night, everyone, and welcome to this presentation of how to reverse your blood pressure naturally. And persons are still asking for the YouTube link. Let me send it here. My name is Coach Jason, and we are coming to you live from the Evesham SDA Church. And every Sunday night, we have this Sunday night health. So we are always here every Sunday night sharing this information out. And we look at different topics. For the last 2 weeks, we've been looking at diabetes, then we did obesity, we did the laws of health, and we are taking our time and we're going to build right from here. So that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen now and just make sure that you guys are seeing my screen. If you are seeing my screen, let me know and we're going to jump right into it. So you should be seeing the flyer for the webinar here, and it is up. Let me just look at the stuff here. Perfect, lovely. So you guys are seeing the screen. Now, before we begin, let us just bow our heads for a word of prayer. We're going to get all of the covering that we could get to make sure that this does not repeat itself and just smooth. Listen, guys, as long as you're doing things online, these things happen, but we're not going to stop. So bow your heads with me. Dear Father in heaven, we want to thank you, Lord, for the opportunity for creating this backup link. I want to thank you, Lord, so much for, giving us the wisdom. And even in spite of the challenges that we would have faced at the launch, we know that you are still in control. We ask that you may take control of the rest of this webinar. We ask, Lord, that you may give me the wisdom and open my mind. And more importantly, the persons who are listening, who are joining, Lord, we ask that you may also grant them the understanding and more importantly, the strength to apply in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So just do me a favor in the chat. Let me know exactly where you guys are signing in from so I can give you guys a special shout out. I know we have quite the audience here, so kind of helps me to tailor. Okay, we have Kelly from Trinidad and Tobago. We have St. Vincent. Lovely names are coming in. And let me give you guys a shout out before we actually begin. So just to make sure everybody feels welcome. So in the chat, just drop where you guys are signing from. We have Trinidad and Tobago again. Coach Judy on Kwesi. Good to see you. Janelle, Trinidad and Tobago. Oh, a lot of Trinidad and Tobago in the house tonight. Interesting. All right. So keep that chat coming. Keep that chat coming. We're going to move right into the presentation. Now, disclaimer. This webinar is for educational purposes only and is not intended to replace medical advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. And this is something we have to say now. Now, because I know we have quite the mixed audience on here tonight, let me just briefly introduce myself. So my name is Coach Jason. And from the young age, I had my eyes on the sky. Airplanes, anything with flying always captured my attention. So I knew that aviation was going to be my life path. Now, at the time, I never imagined that I would be in the health and fitness or health and wellness field. And growing up as a Seventh-day Adventist, I was taught the principles of health, like avoiding pork, avoiding shellfish, and eating more of a plant-based food. Now, didn't understand exactly why we did these things until as a teenager, I began to study the Bible for myself. And that's when everything really started to click. Now, around that same time, I started lifting weights just in my backyard. You're going through that teenage phase and you want to look a certain way. And I started lifting weights. And that's when I really started to find a love for exercising. Now, fast forward, at the age of 19, I went off to chase my dream of becoming a pilot. And by the age of 21, I was working with the then known Liat 1974 airline. And aviation really helped to shape my discipline, focus, and work ethic, things which I still carry on today. Now, during the early years of my career as a pilot, in my early 20s, I was introduced to a health and wellness business. And this really started to ignite the passion for health and wellness and helping others live a healthier life. But I didn't really do too much with it, as you guys see here now. But in 2020, during the COVID, when we were unable to fly and we got laid off because of planes not moving, I really used that time as a season to serve. So I began offering free online training for women around the Caribbean and just helping them during that period when they were not able to leave their home. So just kind of creating a nice community where they could work out, we could discuss health, we could discuss nutrition, and really help them during that uncertain time. And in the pictures here, you can see me in my uniform and my beautiful wife and anchor right next to me there. Now, from that, this is when I really started to take a deep root and really started to take this thing really serious. I went on to be certified as a gospel medical missionary and literary evangelist. And this really opened my eyes to the powerful connection between the body, the mind, and the spirit. This is when I started really understanding the laws of health, the healing power of herbs, the benefits of plant based living. And I saw simple remedies changing person's life. And I started applying this to the ladies that I was coaching, and I saw that some ladies were able to come off their medication, reverse terminal conditions by just using these simple remedy. And it's this journey that has led us to create what we know as the FITMA, or Fit Mothers and Wives movement. And this is a movement that is dedicated to helping mothers and wives become fitter, healthy, and happier. And today I serve as the health secretary at the Evesham SDA Church. And so every Sunday night we come on and spread the message. In the pictures there, you can see some of the ladies that we work with here. And the lady in the red, that is Coach Judy. She actually came in as a client, and now she is a coach in Fitma, helping ladies to do the exact same thing. So that's a little bit about me. And in terms of what I use for the information, I use the Bible. Four. Then I use the inspired writings. When I talk about the inspired writings, we're talking about the inspired writings of Ellen G. White. And then third, I use good science. Now, good science lines up with the Bible and it lines up with the inspired writings. And of course, experience from working with clients. There are certain things, there are certain patterns, there are certain trends that you see work time and time again. And so that's what I'm going to be sharing this information, even the other information that we have covered in times past. That's what is going to be coming from. Now, key text. If we use the Bible, we're going to start from the Bible. And this is a text I start all of my presentations with. And it says, "And the Lord said, If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. Exodus 15:26. Now we see here, the Lord promised to put none of these diseases upon thee when we fulfill the requirements, which is hearken to his voice, do that which is right in his sight, give ear to his commandment, keep his statutes. Once we do our part, he will do his part. Another text I like to use is Proverbs 26:2, part B, and that says, the curse causeless shall not come. The curse causeless shall not come. Now you're going to see exactly why all of this is very important. And it brings us to the next slide, which says, disease never comes without a cause. Now, I want you guys to stick up in here. In fact, I will implore you to get your notebook out, especially when we start to get into the heavier stuff. Or if you have a little bit more tech savvy, then you can go ahead and get your phones out to start taking some snapshot, because there's some heavy information that we are about to share here. Now, that means that there is no such thing as I born like this, or I just got this, or I just had this disease. It means that for every disease there is a cause. And by extension, that means that once we can find out the cause, we can possibly reverse the disease. Now, what is disease? We're gonna have a working definition here. And if you guys are just joining us, don't forget to drop in the chat where you guys are signing from, so that we can give you a shout out. Now, what is disease? The definition I like to use is from one of my favorite books. It's called Ministry of Healing, and it's taken from page 127. It says, and this is going to be your working definition tonight, disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. Now, there's some words that are highlighted here. It says that disease, that is the end result. That's the one that most of us or most persons focus on, the disease. But it says that this disease did not just come about. It says that this came because nature was trying to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. Now, tonight, we are looking at hypertension. So we can replace that word disease with hypertension. So hypertension is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. Now, the question must be asked then, what are the laws of health? So we have them here. Pure air, sunlight, abstemiousness or temperance, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, trust in divine power. These are the true remedies. Now, when I do this presentation in person, I would normally call 5 persons up and line them up. Unfortunately, I don't have the luxury of 5 persons, so we're going to use this little image that we have here on the screen. So in the far right, it says disease, or in this case, we are studying hypertension. And it said that disease came because the system was freeing itself. So we call that one system freeing. Now, what was the system freeing itself from? Conditions. The question must now be asked. How did these conditions come about? They came about from a violation of what? The laws of health. So now that we have that working definition, we're going to jump into this thing. Tonight, we're looking at hypertension, how to reverse hypertension naturally. And we got to define what we are looking at. So it says here that hypertension is defined as a systolic blood pressure reading consistently over 130. Excuse me, 1 minute, one quick minute here. Leave it open. Consistently over 130, and the diastolic, or the bottom number, reading over 80. So once your numbers are 130 over 80, the keyword here I want you to watch is consistent. Is consistently. Put this stone behind it. Is consistently. So with your blood pressure reading, the numbers will sometimes go high, right? If you are doing high exerting activity, your blood pressure will go up a bit. But that doesn't mean that you are or you have hypertension. If it is consistent, you're checking numbers today, tomorrow, the day after, for the next 7 days, and you are consistently seeing numbers greater than 130 over 80, then is when you will be considered hypertensive. Now, let us look at the ranges. So anything 120 and over 80 or less, we consider that normal. So if that is your blood pressure, that's off to you. Now, if you're running numbers between 120 to 129 and over 80, then that is what we'll call an elevated blood pressure. Now, stage 1 is numbers 130 over 80 or greater. And from 130 to 139 on the top number, or 80 to 89 on the bottom number, we would consider that stage 1. Now, stage 2 is the top number being 140 or higher and the bottom number being 90 or higher. Now, what we would consider a hypertensive crisis is when you have a number higher than 180 on the top, higher than 120. If that happens, go to the hospital or seek your doctor immediately. That is not normal, and you will see why. Now, we're getting deep into this thing. So we're going to set this thing up nicely for you tonight. And let me just give a couple more shout outs. Kemisha, St. Vincent, Jocelyn, Sasha Trinidad, Merle Trinidad. Great to have you guys all. Remember to share the link. We have a YouTube link now, and we can use that as well. So let us look at some stats because, yes, we know hypertension is bad, but really, how bad is it? So, according to this, it says that hypertensives are 3 times more likely to have a heart attack, 5 times more likely to develop heart failure, and 8 times more likely to suffer a stroke than people with normal blood pressure. It also raises your risk for diabetes, which we looked at last week, eye problems, and kidney disease. Now, I'm going to come back to this slide because it's very important. Let's look at some more stats. Approximately 1.3 billion adults worldwide have hypertension, and hypertension contributes to about 10.8 million deaths annually. Now, keep this in mind. 1.3 billion adults have hypertension, but then we also learn that hypertensives has 3 times higher risk of developing a heart attack, 5 times a higher risk of developing heart failure, and 8 times higher risk of developing a stroke. And 1.3 billion adults in the world have hypertension. So that kind of gives you an idea of what their risk is. Now, is that really an old person disease? Like when I was small, like hypertension and diabetes, say, it used to be the old people disease. But let's look at some information here. It says that 1 in 7 children in the US have elevated blood pressure, highlighting the importance of early intervention. Now it gets worse. I pulled up some recent data and I want to share this with you. Now, this is from the World Health Organization. It says the leading causes of death worldwide are dominated by non-communicable diseases, led by cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and chronic respiratory conditions. Now, let me look at the next one. Diseases of the circulatory system and cancer are the 2 leading causes of death, accounting for almost half of the deaths in the OECD countries. And that's one of the sources that we use. So now we see in here, in 2 of these, cardiovascular is number 1, World Health. OECD, cardiovascular is still number 1. Let's see what it gets worse. So Navigator, these are the insurance brokers. And of course, if you're insuring people's life, you want to know what your challenges and threats are. According to their website, the top 10 killers of disease, we don't need to go past 1. 1 is ischemic heart disease. Okay, let's go deeper. According to the CDC, this is 2005 data. The leading causes of death, number 1, heart disease. Number 4, stroke. Let's bring this thing home. We are looking at the US. I know we have some persons here from the US. According to the US, and this is from the World Health Organization. Now, when the World Health Organization put out death stats, it is normally going to be delayed by about 3 to 5 years because sometimes the information from all of the different countries in the world is forthcoming, and so sometimes there's a delay. So you normally get this every 3 to 5 years. So the last one was in 2021, right? In the US, top causes of death in women, ischemic heart disease. Top causes of death in men, ischemic heart disease. Well, I don't live in the US. What does that have to do with me? But let's bring it home. Trinidad and Tobago. I see we have some persons here from Trinidad. Now remember, this is 2021. In male and female, the top causes of death is COVID, of course, in 2021. And that will be questionable, but we'll just leave it at that. For females, diabetes. For males, ischemic heart disease. And number 3, ischemic heart disease for females and diabetes for males. So we see it jumping around there. So what we are noticing the trend is that ischemic heart disease is in the top 3. What about those of us in Grenada? Top 2, COVID. And number 2 is ischemic heart disease for both male and female. What about those of us living in St. Vincent? Ischemic heart disease, male and female. So what you are going to realize is that if you don't get that blood pressure in check, remember it says that persons with elevated blood pressure levels or hypertensives are 3 times more likely to have a heart attack, 5 times more likely to develop heart failure, and 8 times more likely to suffer a stroke. And you are seeing, according to the data from the US worldwide St. Vincent, Trinidad, and Grenada, that heart attack, ischemic heart disease, is in the top 3. In some countries, it is in the top 1. So what do we look for? Now, this is important for you to know. Whether you are being in tune with your own body or you're taking care of someone, you need to know exactly what to look for. So in the heart, what would normally happen in the chest area, you will get racing, palpitations, irregularity, or pain. This could be a warning sign. Now, when you look at the kidneys, you'll normally have an ache in lower back, and this is a big one. Changes in urine color or smell, changes in urination patterns, or night sweats. Now, when you look at the hands, you'll tend to see slight swelling at the fingertips and also other signs of poor blood flow, water retention, and tingling. The same thing happens in the legs and feet, but with the legs, you will start to see varicose veins appearing. The head, this is normally one of those that you could pick up early in the game. Headaches, lightheadedness, dizziness, ringing in the ears, and blurry vision. And then in terms of the bowels, constipation, bloating, or gas. So let me stick a pin here. It doesn't mean if you have a headache that you have a high blood pressure. It doesn't mean if you have a lower aching back or aching lower back, you have high blood pressure. But when you start to see a couple of these lining up, it will be something to check. And in fact, if you see something out of the normal, always check. Do not assume. Now, once somebody is diagnosed as a hypertensive, there is what we call the primary care. So this is what the doctors would normally recommend to them. I wonder if my doctor friend is on here tonight. Let me see if I see her. Okay, I don't see her, so maybe not. Right, so this is what the doctors would normally recommend as the primary care. They would tell you to first of all restrict the use of salt in cooking and lose weight, exercise, stop smoking if you are, and try to eat more fruits and vegetables. Now, if that fails to work, then they would put you on the typical convention step care approach. And this is where they would normally introduce the drugs. Now, some doctors go straight to the drugs, but some of the more I would like to call holistic doctors would normally give you this first approach. But if that doesn't work, then they will give you drug medication. Now, let's just keep it simple. The drug medications that they give you for hypertension works from one of two pathways or a combination of both. They work as a diuretic, which simply means they decrease the total blood volume, which tends to lower the blood pressure. And I'll show you how that works. Or the second, they would use what we call ACE inhibitors, which will cause the blood vessels to dilate or open, thereby dropping the blood pressure. Now, just to make this a little bit more practical, look at these pictures, and you're going to get yourself on your fingers on the chat now. Look at these two pictures. On the left, there's a picture of a car, and that's a yellow car. On the right, there's a picture of a blue car. Now, the surface or the road of these two roads, which one of these roads do you think have the most pressure on them? The yellow car or the blue car? Put your answers in the chat. Let me go in the chat. I like to be interactive in these sessions, and I want to see what you guys put. Which road do you think will feel the most squeeze from the vehicle passing? The yellow car or the blue car? What do you say? This says the blue. Yeah, blue. The blue or the yellow? Yellow. All right, I have my little nephew here with me. Okay, so everybody agree the yellow car. Because, well, I don't even know what these guys were thinking with this yellow car, but we'll work with that, right? And the reason is because there's a lot of mass on that car and it's pressing down against the road. Now, what diuretics do is the same thing. So the diuretics will be like taking that yellow car, offloading some of the load, in that case, reducing the total blood volume. So that's why when you're on diuretics, you would tend to urinate a lot more. You're getting rid of that extra fluid, and that would work by bringing down the blood pressure. Now, the other class of drugs will be like inhibitors or beta blockers. And to understand how this works, just look at this picture of the hose. So on the left, the yellow hose, you notice that the pressure is low. On the right, they have squeezed the tip and the pressure is high. So what inhibitors or beta blockers do, they would be like if you took the blue hose and then lift your finger off and coming back to the yellow hose. So once you take your finger off, and how that works in the body is that they would cause the arteries to dilate or open wider so the pressure goes down. Right? That's the easiest way to do it. Now you may say, Coach Jason, well, these are good things. One is getting rid of extra blood volume. The other one is opening my arteries and my blood pressure is coming down. And I agree, that's a good thing, except we're dealing with drugs. And when we deal with drugs, we got to talk about side effects. So one of the drugs that they use is hydrochlorothiazide. And these are just some of the side effects. If you could go to WebMD, you'll check these out. Loss of appetite, diarrhea, stomach cramps, sorry, sexual problems, oops, nearsightedness, hepatitis, the list going. Kidney disease, hives, rash, gout, low amount of magnesium in the blood, amount of calcium in the blood, so I just wanted my blood vessels dilated. I just wanted my blood pressure come down. But I have to deal with all of these. Now the question must be asked, why does this happen? And for this, guys, I created a very nice video that I'm going to share with you. And this would really explain it to you because I think this video does the best job when it comes to explaining this. So let me bring it up right here so that you guys can see it. So here we go.
It says that disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. What are the laws of health? Pure air, sunlight, rest, temperance, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, trust in divine power. Now these are the 8 laws of health. So as long as these laws of health are in place, everything is fine. Now as soon as you violate, you're going to start a chain of events. So when there is a violation, the formula says that conditions develop. So as soon as you violate the laws of health, your body will start developing conditions. That could be coughing, sneezing, wheezing, whatever the case is, conditions are going to develop. It could be elevated or higher than normal blood pressure, higher than normal blood sugar readings, hormonal imbalance. These are things that can start to develop. So now, if nothing is done here, the system is going to fix the problem and it's going to try and free itself. So that's called system freeing from these conditions that have developed. Now, if you leave that unchecked, eventually a disease is going to develop. That disease could be hypertension, it could be diabetes, it could be PCOS, it could be fibroids, any of those diseases, and many others could develop. Now check this out. How did this chain start? It started from a violation. Instead, what we do, we give a drug medication to treat that condition, and here's what happens. Now a drug medication is administered, new conditions develop, the system then tries to free itself from those conditions, and a new disease is formed. Then we give drugs to fix that disease. So what happens? A new condition is developed. The system then tries to free itself from that condition, and then now you have a new disease developing. And that is why when persons start drug medication, they will start with one issue, but then develop 3, 4, 5 and different issues from just one initial issue. You did not get sick because you were lacking any drug medication, cough medication, sneezing medication. You got sick because there was a violation. So let us fix this. So if we break the violation, the conditions will go away, the system will have no need to free itself, and the disease will go away. Now, where do herbs come in? Let's build it back up. Once we break the violation, then we can now introduce herbs here to help to deal with the conditions. Condition goes away to help to deal with the system freeing, and eventually the disease will go away. But your problem was not a lack of drugs or a lack of herbs. Your problem was a violation. So before you start any sort of disease reversal, if you do not plan on stopping the violation, then you will just build this massive chain of more conditions, more system freeing, more diseases. And this is the principle that I want every single person to get, because once you learn this, then it becomes easy. But if you do not plan on breaking the violation, then nothing we do here would make any sense.
Jason, you are muted. We're not hearing you.
Oh, sorry about that. Right. So I think that video does an excellent explanation. Thank you very much, Tarisha, of explaining how this connection, when drugs are introduced, why all of these things start happening. You start with one issue, now you end up with tons of different issues. Now let's go to one of my favorite authors and ask, do drug really cure disease? Now let's read this, and this comes from Sister Ellen G. White again. It says, people need to be taught that drugs do not cure disease. It is true that they sometimes afford a present relief and the patient appears to recover as a result of their use. This is because nature has sufficient vital force to expel the poison and to correct the conditions that cause the disease. Health is recovered in spite of the drug, but in most cases, the drug only changes the form and location of the disease. Often, the effect of the poison seems to be overcome for a time, but the results remain in the system and work great harm at a later or some later period. That's from Ministry of Healing, page 126. Now, let's look for a better approach. The first thing to be done is to ascertain the true character of the sickness and then go to work intelligently to remove the cause. We said that earlier. If the harmonious working of the system has become unbalanced by overwork, overeating, or other irregularities, do not endeavor to adjust the difficulties by adding the burden of poisonous medicines. Clear as mud. Right. So let's do exactly what we were counseled to do. So let's look at some of the causes of hypertension. Now, high sodium intake. I want you to stick a pin here. Note I put here high sodium intake. I'll come back to that. Low potassium intake, high fat foods, spicy foods, stimulating drinks, smoking, hormonal balance, lack of exercise, stress, inflammation, infection. These are some of the causes, and I will come back to this again. Other causes is eating animal products. I'll come back to that. All caffeine-related drinks, high cholesterol, drug-induced blood pressure, competitive sports, loud talking. And what you will notice with all of these are a violation of either one or multiple of the laws of health that we just discussed. Now, there are some secondary causes and things like chronic kidney disease, because you see, the kidney actually helps to regulate blood pressure. And if the kidney is not working properly, it means that the regulating mechanism is not working properly. Adrenal fatigue as well, because of the increase in adrenaline, can cause hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. Now, when I did this presentation a couple of years ago, it was pretty straightforward until there's an elephant in the room that nobody likes to talk about. And I'm going to pull up another video and show you this elephant in the room that nobody likes to talk about. So we're going to bring everything here on the table tonight. You guys were very patient with me in spite of the challenges, and I'm going to show you guys everything that you need to do. There's a massive elephant in the room, and let's talk about it. Let me make sure I have it up here, and we are going to jump right into it. Let's see, this is it. Right, here we go. Oh, by the way, before I continue, if you guys have children, I would strongly...
And lo and behold, here's a whole listing of people, of articles, of people within that last week who died suddenly. Younger people, older people, but a lot of younger people around the world. Famous people, athletes have just dropped dead. A lot of the substances that I'm seeing are stuff that looks pretty much, it's this white fibrous stuff. Now, instead of calling them blood clots, I try to refer to them as white fibrous clots or white fibrous structures. How come all of a sudden these things are happening in so many people? When I first started seeing these strange clots, in the beginning I thought, you know, this is kind of weird, this is kind of crazy, I don't understand. As I started gathering more and more photographs, I'm able to share it amongst other people that I work with. I talk to other embalmers that have 30, 40, even 50 years of experience.
I'm a licensed funeral director, National Board funeral director, and certified embalmer. I've been in the death care industry since 1982. I've been embalming, been in the embalming process with well over 1,000 bodies. And I had actually noticed some of the differentiations in the clots as well in some of the bodies I had been embalming, and that had started recently.
First time I saw it firsthand, pulled out of a deceased, my end, was about 3 months ago. Been struggling to embalm people for around about 18 months. My embalmer was complaining that he was having trouble getting fluid through people. And the way they do that is they cut into the carotid artery and they pump it around the body via a pump. He was struggling to get it through, and we kind of thought, well, maybe the pump wanted servicing, and had a look at it, it doesn't. Pulled this out and he kind of grabbed the end with the tweezers, and this comes out in one piece, one elastic piece. It looks like calamari.
Tell me, when this all started, these symptoms that you had.
Early August of this year, my leg started swelling. I was getting a lot of pain from the crotch area all the way down to the ankle. They did a Doppler on it, and I had several clots in my leg.
Oh, wow.
So I was transported to the hospital, and they confirmed that, and also that I had a clot in my lungs.
So you went into the hospital, they put you on a blood thinner, presumably?
Yes, I got put on Eliquis when I was being released. And come to find out, the Eliquis did not work for me.
Okay. And did they let you know that that is extremely rare?
Every doctor I saw said it was extremely rare.
So before the vaccines came out, there were 1 to 2 fetal demises every 2 or 3 months. You would see one. I finally had enough when I got this email the other day. It said that there was a record number of fetal demises and that there were 22 of them in 1 month. And in this email, it said that it's projected to increase each month.
The fetal demise in mothers, gestational mothers, in that 22 to 26 week period. I had a run of that in my funeral home, and 5 of the 6 were vaccinated. The other had remdesivir, and they all lost their infants.
We're just seeing a fridge full of babies, but we're not actually doing the funeral. So that's a mystery to me as to where these babies are going.
So are you saying there's more fetuses in the refrigerators now than there was prior to 2021?
Yeah, I'm saying there's more fetuses now in the refrigerator than I've seen ever before.
I've been doing high-risk obstetrics for 43 years. I see a vast number of patients a year. I don't know of any other maternal fetal medicine physician in this country that sees as many patients as I do by ultrasound. At one point in time this year, I was on track to see 9,000 high-risk OB ultrasounds. So I know what's going on, and I've seen death and destruction like I've never seen before.
The stillbirth rate is measured in terms of live births per 1,000. And really, it's come down in my career from about 10 to about almost 5.8 or 6. Now let's go to 2021 and look at the stillbirth rate for Michelle's. This is horrifying. But if you take this death figure and you look at that rate at 29.3, that sigma that you're looking at is 40 plus sigma.
And then when we get into pregnancy, we're looking at a substantial increase in miscarriages, in birth defects, a substantial risk of fetal cardiac arrhythmia, fetal cardiac malformations, significant fetal growth slowing, significant reduction in amniotic fluid, fetal cardiac arrest.
Are you saying babies are having heart attacks in the womb?
Yes.
The data depicted on these charts alone should have raised the alert level to DEFCON 1. Now, this first chart is showing deaths reported on VAERS since the inception of VAERS. You can see starting in 1990, deaths were approximately a couple hundred per year. Anaphylactic shock, those types of things. In 2021, deaths spiked to 21,631. Now, again, I didn't need a mathematical algorithm to tell me there's something going on here. And by the way, a lot of people say, well, that's because we administered billions of doses. One of the letters I wrote to the CDC showed the rate of death per dose, compared it to the flu, which is about 0.46 deaths per million doses. Time we calculated this, the COVID injection was 25.5 deaths per million doses. That's a 55-fold increase over the deaths for the flu vaccine. So something was going on here.
I need not say anymore. I think that does a good job at explaining exactly the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. And I'll tell you guys something. Since 2021, since that mass inoculation began, we are seeing stranger and stranger things in the medical field. Stranger and stranger problems. Persons who never had a history. Nobody in the family have hypertension. They don't necessarily break the laws of health, but they come in with elevated blood pressure. Women, strange menstrual irregularities. I had a client who came in, she hadn't had a period in 6 months. And we are seeing all of these strange things. So it has to be said that since that mass inoculation, things have changed, which is why you would find in the protocols that we lay out, we always tell you to start with a spike protein detox. Right, now we're going to continue. We're picking the pace up now. So earlier, I showed you guys a slide and it said specifically sodium. Now, typically when persons have high blood pressure, they tend to cut out all salt. That's dangerous. Why? What is salt? Salt is a compound made up of different minerals. What is sodium? Sodium is a mineral found in salt. So when it comes to hypertension, salt, especially natural salts, like the Celtic sea salt, the Union sea salt for those of us living in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Himalayan salt, all these have 50 plus minerals in them, all of which work together to make good blood. Table salt is typically sodium, one mineral, chloride, another mineral, and iodine, just three. So obviously you would avoid table salt or you would avoid sodium, but you would not avoid salt altogether. You go back to the laws of health, you just use it judiciously, right? So that will help to provide the key electrolytes that is needed for good blood. Now, the next thing that we have to look at is potassium. So potassium and other trace minerals in salt are necessary for heart, the kidneys, and other organs to function normally. And again, you find this in the natural salts where you would find them there. Now, some other sources of potassium would be things like blackstrap molasses. For our non-diabetics, you would stay away from this one. Soybeans, potato, bananas, nuts, avocado, coconut water, and kelp. Now, scenario. It's time for us to get back in our chat. When you finish this webinar tonight, you went to use the bathroom. On opening the door, you notice that the floor is flooded. Upon closer observation, you see that the sink is clogged up and the tap is on full power, letting everything go. Now, in which order would you correct the problem? So here are the options. Mop the floor, turn off the tap, unplug the sink. Mop the floor, turn off the tap, unplug the sink. I need you to tell me which one you're doing first, which one you're doing second, and which one you're going to do third. So you have a 30 seconds to put your answers in the chat. And that time begins right now. So write them out for me. Which one you do first, which one you do second, which one you do third. Okay, Sasha, answers are coming in. Lovely. Let's keep the answers coming in. Okay. All right. Man, I love this group. You guys are amazing. You guys make me feel like I am there in person with you. And the timer, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's look at some of the answers. So, I'm not going to call the names. I'm just going to call the answers, right? I don't want to put anybody in the spot. Turn off the top. Unclog the sink. Third, mop the floor. Okay? Turn off the top. Unclog the sink. Mop the floor. Turn off the top. Okay, so everybody has pretty much the same answer, and you guys are most correct. So exactly this is the same pattern that we are going to use when we are working to reverse diseases. So, that being said, we read this earlier. The first thing is to ascertain the true character of the sickness and go intelligently to remove the cause. Now, The reason we turn off the tap first, because that is the source of most of the water. Once you stop the source, you can work backwards. But if we went to mop the floor, then all that will happen is that we'll be mopping for the rest of our lives. So we go into the one that creates the most havoc, which is the tap. Now, when it comes to hypertension, guess which one creates the most havoc? The diet. So we're going to hit that one right on the head. Now, I'm going to bring up a topic here, and I want you guys to just follow me along. Flesh and hypertension. I'm going to show you guys some studies, right? Very important. Now, according to the JAMA Internal Medicine meta-analysis, so this is where they look at multiple studies, they saw that vegetarians were associated with significantly lower blood pressure in both clinical trials and observational studies. The authors concluded vegetarian diets may be useful for preventing and managing hypertension. And next one was the DASH trial. And the DASH diet, as you guys know, is rich in fruits, vegetables, grains, and low-fat foods with reduced saturated fat. Now, persons who did this substantially lowered their blood pressure in just 8 weeks. And next one we're going to be looking at is PubMed. And in a 2023 review, plant-based diets reduce blood pressure. A review of randomized trials found that plant-based dietary patterns consistently reduce systolic and diastolic blood pressure, even when small amounts of animal foods were included. Now, this is one of the well-known studies, the Adventist Health Study. And what they found here is that vegans and lacto-ovo mean persons who just use milk and eggs, vegetarians had lower systolic and diastolic blood pressure than non-vegetarians, with vegans showing the lowest hypertension levels. And then from the health.com, they found that a recent review found higher legume intake was associated with 16% lower hypertension risk and higher soy intake with about a 19% lower risk. So, am I telling you to come and become a vegetarian? No, I'm not telling you that. What I am showing you is the data. And remember, if we have somebody, or if you yourself have high blood pressure levels, your goal would be to bring it down, whatever it takes. Now, let me be clear. These disciplines, these principles can take time to get into. But this is the one I really like the most, especially for those of you who are still, wavering between what you should do. What you saw here is that eating more beans and soy may lower your risk of high blood pressure. Now, beans are one of the highest sources of fiber, and fiber normally takes excess cholesterol out of the body, and fiber, especially legumes, also help with nitric oxide, which will come with. So even if it just started, if you're not fully transitioning there yet, make sure that when you eat your flesh items, which I would strongly suggest that you cut out, especially if you have high blood pressure, at least give it a week. What you could probably do alternating days. So you could probably do 5 days no meat, 5 days you bring it back in, 5 days no meat until you could wind yourself off. But in the meantime, make sure that you are bumping up your beans, right? Because that is where most of your challenge would come in. So just to recap, eliminate animal products and byproducts. Goes without saying, remove stimulants, caffeine, alcohol, condiments, drugs, smoking, vaping, and these, as you would realize, would also cause elevated blood pressure. And there are some subtle caffeine foods that you have to be very careful with. And especially if you're running higher than normal blood pressure levels, make sure and start pulling them out. Of course, alcohol, besides lowering your blood pressure, alcohol have so much negatives that we didn't even need to touch on that tonight, right? Let me just mention this one. Preparation methods. You want to avoid as much as possible pairing foods with deep frying and frying. Why? Because you could take a perfectly good meal, prepare it in the wrong way, specifically frying, deep frying, and change up how that food works in your body. Frying tends to change the way the food reacts in the body. Inflammation will go higher, and it would cause the issues that lead to high blood pressure, right? So we're still on diet. Now, some other things that you would consider taking out, and what I'm doing here, guys, I'm giving you all of the different nuggets. There will be some things that appeal to you, so you take those. So I'm giving you a massive option list, so you start with the one that you can do from tonight. I don't want you to become overwhelmed and think you have to go and do this massive list. No, look at it as options. One of these will stick out to you, right? So spices, condiments, hot sauces, white pepper, curry, nutmeg. These are some things that could also act as stimulants in the body. We already touched on energy drinks, and Vinegar as well, apple cider vinegar is included in there. I'll come back to that shortly. Now, this is something that you guys have probably never heard of. Until I did this presentation, I never heard of it either. It's called tyramine or tyramine. And this is a hidden stimulant. Now, the body actually produces tyramine in the amount that it is needed. So anytime tyramine levels are higher than normal, it always comes in from the diet. And some of the sources of tyramine is age fermented or spoiled foods or meats, which is why you see apple cider vinegar and vinegar there. Now, I know vinegar has been promoted for weight loss. Yes, it has its benefit, but if you're dealing with high blood pressure and even some other issues, you may want to get that out of your diet because it is fermented. So meats, pork, cheese, I think we kind of cover that. But this is the one I want to touch on. Overripe fruits and vegetables. Now, this one shocked me because I'm sure all of you would agree with me. That is the kind of banana we use to make banana bread. That is a real banana for banana bread. I mean, anything less than that doesn't work. And so when I came across this, I realized that this is actually high or higher in tyramine, which could cause some serious effects, especially for persons who are on antidepressant medication. Because what happens when you add excessive tyramine, more than the body produces through your diet, to the drugs for antidepressants and also those for Parkinson's and so forth, what you end up with is a hypertensive crisis. So you can have things like central nervous system damage, heart and kidney, and even cerebral hemorrhage, right? Because it sort of amplifies and creates a very dangerous combination when you add aged meats, aged foods, vinegar, alcohol, which also helps to boost tyramine, and you add that to antidepressant, you end up with a serious problem, right? Now, let me just read a quote here just to emphasize the point. Nicely prepared vegetables and fruits in their season will be beneficial if they are of the best quality, not showing the slightest sign of decay, but are sound and unaffected by any disease or decay. More die by eating decayed fruit and decayed vegetables, here's that word again, which ferment in the stomach and result in blood poisoning than we have any idea. Right? So that is that. Now, we have that out of the way. Let's look at the good stuff. What can we eat? Let's get to that. So remember we said the blood pressure medications work through two pathways. Diuretic, which means they reduce the total blood volume, or they expand or relax the blood vessels so the blood could flow easier. Now, luckily for you, the Lord has already prepared fruits in nature that have these same effects and even more superb benefits, right? And there are no negative side effects. Now, one thing I'll normally recommend persons to do, this works for fat loss, it works for lowering blood pressure, it works for helping with your liver detox, and it is water and lemon. So this is how it's going to work. You're going to take a half a lemon, or if you don't have lemon, they're not in season, go in most groceries, you would see concentrated lemon juice. Now, lime doesn't work the same way. So it has to be lemon juice. If you're using the real lemon, half a lemon to an 8-ounce cup of warm water, drink that first thing in the morning. Preferably use a straw just to protect your teeth. And if you don't have the lemon, you're using the concentrate, it is going to be 1 tablespoon of the juice to an 8-ounce cup of warm water. Drink that first thing in the morning. That's really going to help to kickstart the system. Now, there are some other fruits that are diuretic, and things like melon, guava, coconut, mangoes, papaya, tomatoes, pineapples. Now, here's a good thing. In every country represented here tonight, I know you guys have these foods, and some of you even grow them yourself. So this is why we like to make these webinars practical to our region. You know, sometimes you go on webinars and they give you a list of foods that you don't have, or if you have to buy them, you need to take out a loan. So this is not the case with this one. Now, some other ones are grapes, cabbage, carrots, beets, asparagus, celery. Grapefruit, we got to stick a pin here. If you are on blood pressure medication, then you would want to stay away from grapefruit because grapefruit actually causes blood pressure medication to intensify and stay in the body for a longer period of time. I'm looking to see if my doctor friend is on here tonight, but she hasn't come. Maybe she is on the Zoom. Maybe she is on the Zoom. All right. Maybe she's on the YouTube. Right. So grapefruit, be very careful. If you know anybody on blood pressure medication, caution them that do not use grapefruit with the blood pressure medication. Right? Lovely. So we're building. And these are some of the other foods that we could use. If you notice, all of these are pretty much healthy foods. So now that we have dealt with the major issue, which is the diet, that is the pipe blasting the water in the sink, Now we could talk about unplugging the sink. And we're going to use the same remedies. Pure air. Let me tell you about this one. So I was in Point Fortin once at the Verdi bookstore doing some health checks. And a client came in and we were taking blood pressure at that time. And she came there normal, she wasn't racing or anything, and her blood pressure level was high. So I asked her, just kind of find out how she got here. If she walked, if she ran, if she sprinted, whatever the case is. No, but she came like normal. So we asked her to sit down and we let her do something called respirate. RESPERATE. Right? And what it is simply, it is sitting still, inhaling, holding the breath for 10 seconds, slowly exhaling 10 seconds, nothing for 10 seconds, and then repeat the process. And she did that 10 times. When we took the blood pressure, the number came down. That was just by breathing. No medication, not even fruits. We just give her that, right? So pure air actually helps lower your blood pressure levels. And if you live in the countryside, then you have the purest air. If you live in the town side, you want to make sure that you are deep breathing early in the morning or late in the night when the vehicle fumes are at its lowest, right? Sunlight, you didn't know that. Well, sunlight actually helps you. And the time or the way sunlight helps you is that sunlight actually produces nitric oxide naturally. Now, for those of my distributors here, you will know exactly, you will be familiar by now with nitric oxide. So sunlight actually naturally helps the body to produce nitric oxide. Legumes also do that, right? So what nitric oxide is, again, let me just kind of recap it. It is causing the blood vessels to open wider so blood flows a lot easier. Now, in terms of the time you see here, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., because of the region we live in, the UVB rays, all that means is that when you have the highest exposure to UVB rays, it helps synthesizing vitamin D. It helps it to work better, or it synthesizes more of it, so to speak. But then you're going to tell me, coach, this is summer, there's no egg in the sun from 9 to 3 p.m. Fine. Whenever you get the sun, take it, right? It just means that the concentration of UV will not be as high, but you're still getting the sun, you're still going to get some benefit from it. Now let's talk about temperance. And temperance really means use judiciously that which is good for you, abstain from that which is harmful. Some examples of being temperate, because there are sometimes, you're doing everything right, but you're overworking or you're overeating, eating at irregular times. And so these can also cause the blood pressure to be elevated. Now, let me speak specifically to persons who are like introvert or afraid to say no. By saying yes to everyone, you are saying no to your health. I had to learn this the hard way. Yes, you want to help everybody, but there is only one of you. And sometimes it can become overwhelming where you have all of these to-dos and to-helps where your body starts to feel the effect. So sometimes you need to say no. All right. And also, in persons who like me, like last minute, just plan ahead could sometimes reduce the tension that you feel. Now, rest is a very important one. Sleep actually helps, is very helpful if you are hypertensive. And we recommend you go to bed before 10 p.m. because what happens, you will be able to get better quality sleep. And if you stay awake past that, the body staying awake at night tends to increase cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And when it is too high, because the body needs some of it, but when it is too high, it can cause inflammation in the arteries and raise the blood pressure. Exercise, of course, great place to start. If you're just starting out, walking is a great place to start, and that helps with that. Now, the use of water. And if you notice, we're going through these things one by one, all the laws of health coming up. We talk about lemon water again. Now, let's talk about some hydrotherapy. This is something you don't hear a lot when it comes to high blood pressure. So, we looked at this in a past webinar, and you can actually do a hot foot bath if you're not a diabetic for high blood pressure, right? So, how it would work. Let me just bring the picture up. This picture is 1,000 words, so we'll have to say less words. So basically, in that bowl where her foot is, that's going to be warm water, as warm as you can tolerate. You'll wrap your body, and on your head, you'll place cold water. Now, when you have various temperatures like this, it would actually cause the blood flow, the circulation in the body to improve, right? And this would actually help also with lowering your blood pressure. We also looked at this when we were looking at some other treatments, but the same one can also be used for lowering your blood pressure. Now, in certain serious conditions, like when it is extremely high, we wouldn't recommend this one. What you would do instead is this one. And this is the hot arm bath. So the same thing, the tub is going to be with warm water, as warm as you can take. Submerge your arms, elbows deep, and you put a cold rag on top of your head. Again, that's going to help to increase the blood flow and thereby lower your blood pressure. Now, as I said, this is when the blood pressure is extremely high. If you can't get to a nearby doctor, then call them And this is something that you can also implement, right? So now we look at the two major problems. We turn off the pipe with the diet, and then we added the lifestyle. Now we get to the part that everybody likes, the herbs. So let's go to the herbs now. Now, as I mentioned, step number one, spike protein detox. I'm not even going to show you another alternative. There's no alternative to this. As long as we live in past 2021, if you time travel and go back to 2020, you could skip this step. But unfortunately, we're in 2021 and beyond, so we have to do this. You have to do a spike protein detox. And what this is, right? This is a herb. You could actually take a picture of it right now. And these are the herbs that we'll use. Now, there are broad accrued, that will be blood cleanse, milk thistle, liver, dandelion liver, cinchona bark. This is what we use for viral infections. And this is what they use for malaria. The active component in there is quinine. Wormwood, parasite, astragalus, nettle, cornsilk, or parsley. Those are kidney, pine needle, and licorice. This just help the body against the antiviral and helps to boost the antiviral effect of the body. Now, I will tell you something. There is a new compound or new product. Not a new product. It's a new natural remedy. And this is what I have been using personally in my clients for persons who have been vaccinated, have long COVID, or come in contact with persons who have been vaccinated. Now, the studies are remarkable on it. For the purpose of, I haven't taught you about it, I will not mention it here tonight. But if you're interested in it, just message me after and I'll tell you about it, because I don't like to present things I've never taught. And this is one of those that will seem controversial, so this is why I need to actually build it up. I just can't drop it here for you tonight. But if you want it, I'll put the information at the end. That is what I'll recommend. In fact, I'll put it this way. If you can't get all of these and you can only do one thing, that would be the one thing I'll recommend, right? So just putting that out there. Now, in the preparation of the herbs, again, you could take a snapshot of it. Basically, 8 cups of water, 2 ounces of each herb. You place all of the herbs inside the pot, pour boiling water of it, pour boiling water over it, cover and leave it overnight to draw out, strain and drink. The dosage is up to 4 cups per day. So 1 to 4 cups per day, right? Now, this is 2 things I want to mention as we are talking about circulation issues. One of them is NAC, N-acetylcysteine, and another is nattokinase. Now, N-acetylcysteine actually is very beneficial, especially for persons who are vaccinated or persons who have a lot of clots or poor circulation. It actually helps with that. And it helps specifically when it comes to like lung and respiratory issues as well. The dosage is 2 cups or 1200 mg in the morning. Nattokinase, on the other hand, works very well in dissolving clots. This is what we use for fibroids patients. So nattokinase used for fibroids patients is perfect at dissolving clots. Now remember we read earlier that soy actually helps with lowering blood pressure. Nattokinase is actually derived from soy. So that is just something that you know. I have to put this in. If you are on blood thinning medications, do not use NAC or nattokinase. If you are on blood thinning medications, Dr. D, where are you? If you are on blood thinning medications, do not use NAC or nattokinase. All right? Let me just put that in there. Now, sometimes with hypertension, persons may have suffered a heart attack or heart-related issues. So if the person that you're dealing with, or if that is you, these are some other herbs that you need to add. Magnesium complex, CoQ10, hawthorn berry extract, and vitamin D3 and K2, especially if you're not going in the sun. So if you're not going in the sun, make sure to add a vitamin D3 with K2. Now, the reason you add K2 to vitamin D3 is to ensure that the excess, what it does, it drives most of the calcium back into the bones. That's what K2 does, right? Remember, vitamin D3 helps absorb calcium, so the excess, K2 drives it back into the bones. Now, hawthorn berry, this is a very powerful one. If you know anybody had a heart attack or having heart issues, this is something they should be using daily. I would even add in the CoQ10. But hawthorn berry is extremely, extremely beneficial for persons who have anything related to hearts, right? So again, I'm going slow because I know you have to take your pictures. We're building. Now, these are some other teas. These ones are specifically for high blood pressure. And this is either or. It's not you're going to use all of these teas. So because I know we have a wide audience being represented here, I want to make sure I cover all of the options that you will have in the countries represented here. So if you have linden, it's 2 ounces. Hibiscus or sorrel, 2 ounces. This one is either or. Bay leaf, if you have that, use that. If you don't have that, soursop. If you don't have that, avocado leaves. These are the leaves. You're going to take 7 of the dried leaves and you're going to pour 5 liters of boiling water over it. Cover, leave overnight, draw out, strain and drink. 2 to 4 cups daily. Now in St. Vincent, you could use dried breadfruit leaves, right? And 2 of these. So 2 dried breadfruit leaves to 5 liters. I normally use 8 cups of hot boiling water. Cover, strain, drink 1 to 2 cups daily. Now breadfruit leaves works really, really, really good, right? So just thought I'd put it in here. And what I'm showing you guys, I want to show you guys that, listen, finding these natural remedies doesn't have to be expensive. The sunlight free, pure air free, water free in most cases, and exercise free. These herbs that you have here, you see, these are herbs that you could actually use as well. And you guys are going to see here that, you're going to find them all around your environment. Now, next I'm going to add is the corn silk. Now, pop quiz. Which organ we said is responsible for regulating blood sugar, blood pressure, the blood pressure? Which organ did we say is responsible for helping to regulate the blood pressure? Let me look in the chat. Let us see. Pop quiz. It's always good to do a pop quiz. In fact, let's turn the stakes up. If you get the answer right, I'll give you a free bottle of the 7-day cleanse. Right. Who the first person answer me? Let's see. Which organ is responsible for helping to regulate the blood pressure? Kidney, Kemisha. Okay, Kemisha. Take this number. I'm going to WhatsApp you directly. Take this number, WhatsApp me when you finish, and I will get you over a free bottle of the 7-day cleanse. We got to make this thing interesting and fun, right? So you have my number there, Kemisha. The kidney is correct. So what these herbs do, they actually help to strengthen the kidney. So either or, corn silk. Now what is corn silk? You know when you have corn, you pick corn, there's some hairs in the corn. That is what we call corn silk. So you can actually make teas from that. So a handful of that, or parsley, or overearthly. Right? So these are some of the herbs that you could actually use. And yes, lovely. Oh yes, Meeks, you want a picture of what is good for the heart? This is the one right here. It is the CoQ10. Sorry, it's the hawthorn berry. Look at it right here. You can take a picture of it. Lovely, lovely. We cook it with gas. Right. And then now these are some culinary things that you could add to your cooking. So garlic. If you're just trying to regulate, we recommend that you use 4 cloves of garlic daily. You're not going to use them raw. Just find creative ways to put them in your food. Right? So 4 cloves daily. If it's a chronic situation, you can take that up to 2 to 4 cloves 2 times daily. So that will be about 4 to 8 cloves of garlic daily. Again, find ways to put them in your food. If you're on blood thinning medication, be very careful with this. Right? Now, what about some nice foods that we can eat? So we want seeds that are high in omega-3. So that would be things like flax seeds, chia seeds. And what these do, omega-3 tends to lower inflammation. Now, by now, we know what inflammation does in the arteries. It causes the arteries to get smaller. And so if we lower the inflammation, we'll open the arteries, clearing the passageway, and increasing our blood flow through those. Calcium and magnesium, here are some sources that you can use. Pumpkin seed, sunflower seeds. And again, you will take a handful of these and eat them after your meals. If you're not diabetic, you can use blackstrap molasses, as we mentioned earlier. That is very beneficial for you. And then, of course, here are some other great sources of iodine: kelp or dulse, pink Himalayan sea salt, or Celtic sea salt, or Union sea salt. All of these will work well for you. Now, what I normally find sometimes is that when it comes to some of these herbs, persons either become confused, one, they don't remember the instructions, two, or they just find this too much. So these are some other mentions I want to add because these are some things I find work really good. Now, one of them is called the B-Cardio. And as the name suggests, it's a cardio health formula. And I want you to pay attention. Remember we said some of the things that you should use is the hawthorn berry CoQ10 nitric oxide boosters. And if you look right here in the proprietary egg blend, you will notice that it has beet extract, it has L-citrulline and L-arginine. Let me just mention what those two things are. So remember we mentioned that nitric oxide causes the blood vessels to open. So L-citrulline and L-arginine are actually what causes nitric oxide to be produced in the body. And then you have the hawthorn berry extract. Now, anytime you see extract in front of a herb, it means that highly concentrated version. And of course, you have the CoQ10. Now, this is the one my mom personally used. And what I like about these products specifically is that you kind of have all of the herbs in one, and they come in these little sachets. So just take one of these sachets, put them in your bag, put a couple in your bag, tear it off, add it to a 500 ml of water, shake and drink down. To me, that is a lot easier than sometimes persons having to mix the herbs. This is the one that I personally use, this one called the active greens, because I like to get more than more in value than what I spend. So if you notice here, it also has the same ingredients: L-citrulline, L-arginine, beetroot, hawthorn berry, and CoQ10. Now the major difference is if you are dealing with circulation, this one has a higher concentration. So 2,442, whereas the active greens has 944, right? So that is just the major difference there. But what I like about this one is that I'm also getting my greens. So you have the alfalfa barley juice, and you're getting the full green extract. Additionally, you're getting the adaptogen and detox blend. Now remember we talk about the burdock root. It actually has the burdock root. It has astragalus, which we know is good for the kidneys. And it has something very important, ashwagandha. What did we say helps with lowering blood pressure? Sleep. Ashwagandha actually helps your body to go into a good state of rest. And this one has the KSM 66, which is the highest concentration, or the highest value one, so to speak. Right? So you get a lot more the KSM 66. So in this specific one, this is why I like this personally. This is one I use daily. And I use it because I'm getting the greens, so I'm covering my greens. I'm also getting the circulation support. I'm getting the detox and adaptogens, and also my kidney cleanses in there. And then I'm getting the optimum nutrition absorption booster. So what I've given you here, I've given you all the options. You get from free right up to paid, but more importantly, you go with the one based on you. Maybe you're somebody who like the herbs. You like getting the herbs, you like mixing them together. Then the herbs are perfect for you. If you're somebody who have a busy lifestyle and really don't have the time to go and source all of these, then either the big cardio would be an excellent suggestion, or the active greens. Now let me give you guys some recommendations. So I know we're represented from different countries here. First place, the IADPAs around the Caribbean, you will tend to find these herbs, specifically IADPA in St. Vincent and Trinidad. If you're in the Point Fortin area, the Verity bookstore that is right on School Road, they tend to have these herbs. I'm giving you all the options so you know where you can find them. For these products like the Bicardio and the Active Greens, we have distributors all throughout Trinidad and Grenada and St. Vincent and the US. So again, I will put all some information there so that you will know exactly. You just message us and we'll actually show you where the nearest person is. So either option you have, and of course, the breadfruit leaf, the linden leaves, just go to the back of your house. I'm sure you'll be able to find them there. So when we leave here tonight, the main thing I want you guys to take away is that all of these options we mentioned here, at least one of them you can find in the country where you are at. And so I'm going to leave our email address here. So I know this was a lot of information here tonight, quite a lot of information. And what I have done just to make it really easy for you guys, is that I know you would memorize every single thing that I just mentioned. So we have created a one page. I'm looking for it here. And that email address that I'm going to put up on the screen, you just send us a message. For those of you in the Evesham SDA Church chat, we'll actually drop this in the chat when this call is finished, so you guys can have it. Let me just share it here with you guys so that you guys can actually see it. All right, there it is. Right, so we actually have this here. It's a handout of everything we covered. We talked about what is hypertension, the categories, the 8 laws of health, foods that help, the supplements that you can use, and we'll actually give this to you. So to get this, simply send us an email. Let me put back up the email on the screen here. That is if you're not in the Evesham SDA Church chat. For those of us in the Be Epic group, I'll drop it in there for you as well, and make sure that you guys have access to that. All right. Right. So this is our email address, support@fitma.com. Just send us over a message and an email, and we'll send you over this. For those of you who signed up via the webinar, we would have made sure and send it via email. If you didn't get it, just let us know. So that is the end, guys. I know, as you guys realize, there was a lot of information, and let me tell you a little secret. What we actually do sometimes in these webinars, because there is so much information, I would tend to record them in advance and then replay them. Now, tonight, for some reason, I do not know what happened, but I know what happened. Because as you realize, there's a lot of information, life-changing information. And of course, the enemy don't want this information out. So the system just went haywire. But nonetheless, praise be to Almighty God that we were able to get back on track. You guys were patient. I have to give you guys a round of applause. You guys were patient, and we still got the job done. So thank you guys so much. This is another episode of Sunday Night Health brought to you by the Evesham STH Short Health Ministries Department. And if you have not, that is YouTube channel. Make sure go ahead, subscribe, show them some love, and you'll be able to catch this and all of the recordings that we have covered. Now, before we end it, let us just bow our heads for a word of prayer, and we're going to be out of here. Dear Father, we just want to thank you especially for holding this program together, for keeping the stream running, for helping everything to flow smoothly, helping us to find the videos, helping us to present the information. Most importantly, being with this audience, those on Zoom who had to come at the last minute, those on YouTube who came in at the last minute. We thank you, Lord, for that. We thank you for your laws of health. We thank you for all of this information. Even thank you for little Zahir that would have helped us in keeping this thing together. And so we just want to ask, Lord, that you put a special covering over this ministry and all of the health ambassadors represented here tonight that are out there working to help persons improve their health. We ask, Lord, that you may bless and multiply them, Lord. And we ask that you may expand their territory. Those from the Evesham Church, those from our global expansion, and all of those represented here, so that we can get out there and help persons to not just eliminate diseases, but live in a healthier body so that they can be of more service to you. Thank you, Lord, and we just commit the rest of this year, all of these Sunday night health services into your hand. Take control, remove every plan of the enemy to disrupt and destroy our broadcast. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. So, guys, thank you so much. Next week, let me just give you guys a recap of a sneak peek for next week. Next week is all about the ladies. We have a special guest coming on here, and the topic is what's wrong with my body. You know, sometimes when you pass 40, you see all sort of things, the weight not coming off as easy as it used to be. You're having all of these hormonal imbalances. Well, Coach Jason is not the man for that. So I am bringing in an expert that is going to come on here, and they're going to be talking to the ladies and also men, because you need to understand what's going on with your wife. So make sure that you guys are all here. Until then, again, thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate everything about you all. And have yourselves a great night. I'm going to now drop the links, the one pager for the high blood pressure in the Evesham ST. I'll drop it in the FITMA. I'll drop it in the global expansion. And if you don't have it, remember to just shoot us an email. It is support@fitma.com. Have yourselves a blessed night. God bless, and I'll see you guys